Okay, this is Will and Bella. It is early January, the new year, 2020. It's been almost 3 years since Bella's diagnosis with younger onset Alzheimer's disease. That was February of 2017. So it's been almost 3 years. It's a wet, gross January day. And we are sitting in our family room. We recently had Pepper in here. Now Pepper's gone back outside. And we are talking about things.
Pepper is our dog.
Yes, Pepper is our dog.
And the love of my life.
Yes, and the love of Bella's life, for anyone who wasn't aware of that. And one thing we thought we'd talk about is socializing when you have Alzheimer's. Seeing people, whether it's family or other people, friends, that kind of thing, whether you feel up for that, whether that's something you like, or whether you feel constrained and embarrassed by feeling like you can't, I don't know what, carry on a conversation or something, or feel like a knucklehead, right? Okay, hold on a second. Bella's busy eating a clementine.
No, I'm done now. I'm not embarrassed at all. I mean, it's not something I brought upon myself.
But you said that it can be embarrassing.
I did?
You said that. You said it's embarrassing. But you don't feel embarrassed, but you could easily, and you might if you were a different person.
Well, that's probably true. But I'm not embarrassed by having a disease. And as a young person growing up, I think I got all the embarrassment out of me before Alzheimer's hit me, because I was an awkward child, and Alzheimer's is nothing to high school. I mean, high school is just like the worst. And Alzheimer's, at least you can get sympathy. But but you don't get sympathy when you're in high school. You get beat up, which happened a lot to me, where mean girls would wait around the bushes, and when I would walk by, they'd jump out and beat me up.
Right. And, well, you've always been someone who, as an adult, was willing to speak your mind and not feel, you had to sort of soften what you had to say or feel, embarrassed by it.
Well, that's true. I'm not easily embarrassed. Maybe it's because I forget that I just did something that was embarrassing. I don't know. But when I was younger, I was, like high school and after, I was not someone who cared what other people thought. And that still is my personality. I really try to be more sympathetic, but I don't put too much into what other people think of me. I don't really care what other people think of me. I mean, it is what it is. I have Alzheimer's, but even prior to that, I've always been an outspoken person and someone who would stand up to, people who were not very nice to me, and stand up to people that weren't able to stand up for themselves.
Right. Well, that's interesting what you said about, maybe you don't feel embarrassed because you forget. Like, you forget what you just said. You're just kind of moving on. And, I've noticed that you just sort of live in the present a lot. And you, like when you strike up conversations with strangers, which you do more now than you ever did before. You're very open and friendly now with people you run into and don't necessarily know very well. And I think there's that kind of spontaneity is really something that is more so now with you than it was before you had Alzheimer's?
I'm not sure if I would agree with that because I think I have this disease, but I also have my basic nature, and I don't think, I was somebody who was very considerate of other people. So even if they weren't considerate back to me, I didn't take it personally. Mm-hmm. Unless, of course, they were beating me up, and then I would take it personally. And I did get beat up a lot by the mean girls in school.
Yeah. Well, I see what you're saying. I think that's true. It is your real nature, to be very open and friendly with people. But that has come out more, I think, since in the last few years, where before you would be, sometimes maybe just like more careful with people. Careful about revealing yourself.
I don't know about that, to be honest. I have always been extremely outspoken, as you well know. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, that personality trait was long before I had Alzheimer's. And I still have that outspokenness. And I stick up for people when I see somebody being bullied or talked down to or something. I'm not afraid to step in and say, knock it off, or why are you doing that, or whatever. And I still have that same inclination. I don't know when Alzheimer's is going to grab me by the throat and choke me to death, but at this point, I still feel like I'm myself, and I might be a bit of a knucklehead, but I don't see myself as a victim of a disease. I see myself as someone who has a challenge, and I've always been up for a challenge. I don't feel like woe is me. I have a great family, a great husband, a really wonderful dog, an amazing rabbit, and great kids. I have nothing to complain about. A lot of people die a lot earlier in life than I obviously will, or maybe not. I might just be really crazy and live longer.
Yeah. Well, you know how, you'll just approach people on the street who have dogs and, start petting their dog?
Yeah.
Now. But I don't think that's something you would have done, 5 years ago.
That's not true.
Not as much.
Not true. No,
not as much.
Not true. I'm always friendly to animals. Always.
Well, I'm not saying you'd be unfriendly, but I think you'd be a little more hesitant. You just, it pretty much doesn't matter who it is. If they have a dog, you'll be like, "Can I pet your dog?" Or...
I've always been that way, honey. You must know that. Always. Animals have always been a big part of my life. From the time I was a small child, animals have always been a big part of my life. It's just the way it has always been. I had lambs, I had horses. I had every kind of animal. We even had a pet skunk, dogs, cats. I've always been attentive to strange animals. And it wouldn't matter. I will pet anybody's dog. I will, talk with the dog walker or dog owner. I just love animals, and that has been part of who I am from the time I was young enough to understand. My mother got me a baby lamb when I was 8 years old, and we had a horse, and we had dogs and rabbits and cats. I've always had animals around me, and that hasn't changed at all. I still stop and pet dogs.
Right. No, I know you do. That was kind of the point. So, all right. So now it's 2020. It's been 3 years since you were diagnosed with younger onset Alzheimer's. Do you think things have changed very much over the 3 years?
A little bit. Yeah, for one thing, I can't work and make money, which sucks because I did work and made money. That was great. And that was it, it puts a hardship on our family that I lost my, $60,000 a year job, and now, I get Social Security, whoop-de-doo-dah day. I mean, obviously it's helpful, but it's not like having a salary at a real job.
Right.
And
do you think you've changed much, from the disease, besides the external circumstances, which are important, like not working? I mean, do you feel like you are changing?
I wish I could say yes, but I don't. Inside me, I feel the same way I've always felt. I know other people around me see me in a different way than I see myself, but I just don't see myself as being a victim of a disease.
How do you know that other people around you, when you say other people around you see you differently, what do you mean? That other people see that you're changing because of the disease, that the disease is affecting you?
No, I just feel like because of the podcasts and such, people know me and they come up to me, and I don't feel intruded on. I don't feel like there's something terribly wrong with me. I mean, everybody dies. It's not something you can get out of. There's no way you can go through life without eventually dying. And I don't want to die early, and I want to be able to live a long and healthy life, and I'm going to do the best I can to do that. But I could get hit by a car tomorrow, or fall down the stairs and break my neck. I mean,
well, how about like the people who know you well, like me and Zoe, and everyone else, Tam, Jenny, and
Jeff.
Everyone. I mean, do you think they are perceiving, that the disease is affecting you?
Probably, but probably, I don't know. I mean, I don't. That's like something I have no control over, so I don't really pay much attention to it.
And you don't notice?
I don't pay attention to it. If somebody is treating me differently because of my disease, I just ignore that. I mean, obviously I recognize it, but I don't dwell on it, and I don't use it as a crutch or anything. I just do what I always do. And I have a really great family. I mean, my kids are wonderful, and the loves of my life are my animals, and I know that I talk a lot about my animals, but I really love my dog and my rabbit, and if I could have more animals, I would absolutely have more animals.
They don't treat you any differently.
No, they don't. They love
Except
me.
They kind of do, because you spend so much time with them now. They're like more devoted to you, I think, than normal.
Well, Pepper's always been devoted to me. There's no doubt about that. Pepper's my dog, and she is the love of my life. I just can't even bear the thought of anything happening to her. Yeah. She's super devoted to me. She's so sweet. We have such a good time together. And Beans is really fun, too. Beans is my rabbit, and he is very playful, extremely playful, and really funny. And just a really nice little man, and I feel very fortunate to have those little animals in my life.
Yeah.
Well,
they kind of represent. I mean, they don't represent things, but they are. Like I said, they don't notice any change, and they just sort of live in the moment too. They don't look back at the past and think, wait, something's different, or they just appreciate what's going on right now.
Well, if you think about it, before I had the diagnoses, because I don't know when I actually had the disease. I just know that I had a test and they said, oh, well, you have Alzheimer's, so bummer for you. But my animals, they never changed the way they act with me. My dog is incredibly devoted, and my rabbit is just the funniest thing you've ever met in your life. He's just such a sweet little boy. And, those are normalizing things for me. I know for a fact that my animals love me, and I know that I love them, and that is, that sort of keeps us united with me and the dog and the rabbit.
And that's reassuring. Do you doubt it sometimes? Like with me, do you feel insecure because of the disease?
No, not at all. I don't even think about having the disease. The only thing that I can say that I recognize I have a disease is when I can't find something. Like I know that my whatever was on the table and now it's not, and I must have taken it without thinking, because if I'm not thinking, I'm not paying attention and I don't know where I put it or whatever. That happens sometimes where I just can't locate something, or I do something that makes it harder for me unintentionally.
Or sometimes you can't do things that you used to be able to do.
Give me an example.
Follow recipes.
Oh, what are you talking about? I have the recipes all over my walls.
I know, but it's hard for you to follow them because you don't know when you've added something or not.
Oh, right. Well, I've figured out how to do that though. What my plan has been is that I'm going to have bowls with different things that have to go in to make the meal. Mm-hmm. And that way I can put them in when they're supposed to be put in, and, or whatever. And
that's smart.
Yeah. And most of the stuff that I make these days, I do that. I use that as my fallback. A lot of recipes I've done so many times for so many years that I don't even have to think about it. It just happens. And like chicken teriyaki, I can do that with my eyes closed and my hands tied behind my back, mm-hmm. even with Alzheimer's. Mm-hmm. But I also have written all my recipes that I use a lot on the wall so that I don't have to look through a cookbook. That really doesn't have anything to do with Alzheimer's. That just happens to be, it's more convenient for me to walk across the room and look at the wall. And, oh, yeah, this is what I need to make for, chicken teriyaki or whatever. And then I just can go back to it back and forth.
But I feel like you're more aware than you're saying. You're more aware, because sometimes you'll say to me, you'll say you feel bad because you have Alzheimer's and I have to deal with it, that sort of thing.
Well, I do know that it's going to kill me.
Well, yeah, but that's not what I'm talking about.
Well, that's an important factor for me.
Really?
Yeah, well, the reason is that I wouldn't mind living to an old age and dying in my sleep or whatever, but it does bother me that I'm not going to be with you and the children for as long as I could have been had I not gotten this disease. Yeah. I mean, if my children ever have children, which at this point I don't see that ever happening, I would like to have grandchildren, but at this point I don't see that as
more grandchildren.
More? Do I have grandchildren?
Sophia.
Yeah, of course, Sophia, but you're right. She is. That's right. I'm sorry. I was confused. I just see her as like part of the family, like not a, she's not my child, but she's my granddaughter, but she's kind of like my child.
Right. I see what you're saying.
I see her that way. Mm-hmm. I mean, and she's been in my life since the day she was born. So it's not, she's only in the first grade? Second grade. And she's very devoted to me, and I'm very devoted to her.
Yeah.
And she also has a rabbit, so we have that in common.
Yeah, among other things.
Yeah. And I really, really, I just think everybody dies. I wish I could not die earlier, but my grandmother died at 83 and my mother died at 83, and I'm only 61. So my time is probably going to be the last years of my life before I hit the 83 mark. I'm probably going to be totally crazy. Or I could be someone who's lucky and not be crazy at all. But who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
I'm a bit crazy without the Alzheimer's, so who knows what will happen when it really kicks in, or has it already kicked in? I don't even know. I don't pay attention to it.
I guess it depends what you mean by really kicks in.
Like,
What do you mean? I mean, why don't you ask me? Are you curious at all how I perceive your symptoms?
Oh, yeah, that would be good to know. How do you perceive my symptoms?
Well, do you want to ask anything specific? I mean, I perceive them as progressing steadily, and not quickly, but not stopping. So the progression is noticeable. Month to month, or at least over a period of a few months, it's noticeable.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
See, I don't notice it at all. I don't notice one tiny bit, which makes it makes it easier on me because I don't even know what I don't know.
Right, and that's kind of always been the case. Although that itself, that sort of syndrome where I see a lot more what's happening than you do has gotten, I think, more advanced as well. That has gotten stronger, that whole thing.
See, I don't see it that way. I don't see myself having changed at all. I do the same things I've always done. I clean the house, I walk the dog, I cook the food, I, go to the soup kitchen. I don't see myself as someone who is progressing into a, downward, whatever. I don't see that at all. I wouldn't even acknowledge that I had Alzheimer's, except for the very typical things, which is, where are my car keys? Mm-hmm. Where did I put my wallet? That sort of thing. But I've actually worked really hard on that, and I've got a handle on it. I put my keys on a hook right by the door before I leave, so I know where they are. I've sort of mastered some ways to stay in control. I know I can't do everything, but I can still cook. I can still clean. I can still drive my car and not get lost. I can still, do just about everything. If I see something that needs to be done, I do it. I walk the dog every day, and I just do it. It seems like I don't do anything different. I know I have the disease, but it doesn't. I'm not ignoring it. I just don't pay attention to it. It doesn't seem to it's.
I think that's for the best. I mean, I think that must make the whole experience for you better than the alternative, which is if you somehow perceived, the decline in your cognitive faculties, you would be upset by it.
Is there a decline in my faculties?
Yes.
Like what? Give me an example.
It's like a whole spectrum of things. It's a lot of things. I mean,
give me a good one.
The easiest one is the, forgetting. I guess the easiest one is the really dramatic decline in your short-term memory where you will mention something and then, a few minutes later you'll mention it again or you'll ask the same question. You have begun to mix reality and fantasy a bit, or you'll mix a couple different things that have happened and think they were one event.
Like what? Give me an example.
I can't think of an event or an example off the top of my head, but I've noticed that. Or you'll, one thing that happens sometimes is I'll mention something and then we'll be having a conversation. I'll mention something and then, 30 seconds or a minute later, you'll mention that same thing as if you just thought of it. So it's like...
I'm taking credit for your thoughts.
Yeah. It's good, though. I like it. So that sort of thing. And you don't even know this is going on, so that's...
Well, maybe I do, and I just pretend.
Maybe. But you still have your sense of humor. I agree to a large extent. You're still the same person.
Yeah.
But there's a whole other aspect of things that continues to decline.
Well,
and you have a really hard time organizing, sort of getting things straight or figuring out, I don't know, any sort of complicated task.
Well, one thing I do every single day is I walk my dog. Every single day I walk my dog, and sometimes more than once a day. And I feel like that is one thing that isn't a challenge. So it brings me a lot of joy, and it brings my dog a lot of joy.
Right, it's great.
And so there are things that I know I can do and I can do well still. So I focus on that. I don't focus on the fact that, I can't do certain things anymore, which I'm not sure what they would be. I cook, I clean, I drive my car, I, pick up medications, I, communicate with people. I'm not so far gone that I'm a spaghetti brain.
No, not at all. And, your very positive outlook and the way you're always, just like this whole conversation we're having where I keep pointing out things that have happened or ways that, either symptoms are affecting you and you keep saying that, but I'm fine and I'm good and I'm, I can do everything I used to do and I'm the same person. It's like, that's very positive, that just helps. That really does help a lot with the whole experience because, it's okay. I mean, we have, that's like so key that we have a positive atmosphere, and that's because of your natural optimism or whatever it is.
Well, who knows? Someday they might be able to cure the Alzheimer's and I might still be alive. I don't know. But I don't dwell on the negative any more than I have to. Sometimes I do. I'm not saying I'm perfect. Sometimes I do a little dwelling on the negative, and it doesn't do anything. I mean, it doesn't help anything.
What do you dwell on when you dwell on the negative?
That I'm going to die and miss my dog and my bunny and my husband and my children. And I don't want to do that, but everybody dies eventually. Yeah. I just wish it weren't so much sooner than it's obviously going to be. I'd rather be able to be a good grandmother and, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it probably won't happen. Unless, of course, I have a brain tumor and I don't have Alzheimer's.
Yeah, unless, of course.
Which would be my wish if Santa Claus actually gave people what they wanted for Christmas. I would wish that I had a brain tumor, and then the brain tumor could be removed and I would be normal.
Yeah.
But that's not going to happen.
Right. Well... I'm for some reason my attitude's gotten better. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm happy that it's not snowing or something. But I think I've reached a point of greater acceptance and less gloominess with our whole experience.
I'm not gloomy.
No, I'm talking about me.
Oh, why are you gloomy? You're not the one dying.
I know, really. I should be really happy all the time.
Yeah, because you can remarry, and who knows? You could remarry somebody I really like and be happy that you do.
Yeah, who knows?
Well, I've already got someone in mind.
Okay. I don't know what to say to that, but anyway, I know you haven't been gloomy, but I have been gloomy at times, like a lot of times in the past 3 years.
Yeah, and sometimes you can be mean to me too, just so you know. You're kind of
No,
bossy.
Never. I'm never bossy.
Very bossy. Oh my gosh. You and the channel changer by itself is bossy. I mean, you will have that channel changer and I can't ever find it because you've got it where you want it, so you can use it whenever you want to.
You think this is an Alzheimer's thing?
Yeah, I do. I think
Alzheimer's caregiver thing, or you think this is just like a thing?
No, I think that you don't deliberately, take the channel changer so I can't use it, but it feels like it's deliberate because you are like a controller of the control thing. And it really, it's like, sometimes I just wish you would let me have control of the channel changer, but you don't.
Right.
I've actually hidden it from you just to see how it feels not to be able to have control of the channel changer.
Do you think I'm a bossy in other ways?
No, not really. You're not really bossy. You're just a guy, and guys are, difficult.
So that's not really an Alzheimer's thing.
No, it's not an Alzheimer's thing. It's a male-female thing. Males like to be in control of the channel changer, and women have to figure out ways to get it before they do.
Okay. All right. Well, this podcast may have run its course. What do you think? And not to be controlling. If you have more to say, go for it.
You are a bit controlling, but I don't mind because it's who you are, and I take the good with the bad, and you allow for a lot of not many people would want a rabbit and a dog in the house all the time, and I would like to get another animal at some point, but I'm not going to push it. Even though at some point I think I will push it. I'd like to get a little pig. That's my dream animal. Oh, come on. I want a little pig.
Whatever.
A little tiny pot-bellied pig.
They don't stay tiny.
Yes, you can get little midget ones.
No.
Well, even if they're big, so what? No. They can eat the grass.
There is no grass in our house.
Oh. Well, I think pigs are wonderful, and nobody should ever eat pork because pigs are highly intelligent, and pigs and humans can exchange body parts. And if you can exchange a body part with an animal, you should not be eating them.
All right. Should we sign off?
Sign off. Don't eat pigs.